An update on my 26 meters divorce to my wife 25F over her decade-long affair with cousin. Posting this, originally posted in r/surviving infidelity, but the automod took it down for I'm not sure what reason and I can't get into contact with the mods, and I'd like to give an update for the people following me. A few weeks back I found texts of a sexual nature on my wife's Facebook. With her cousin. She claimed this just happened and she wished he would stop. I messaged him to never speak to her again under the pretense that this had been an unwanted advance. Turns out it wasn't. Turns out they've been sexually involved since 14 or 15, divorce happening. Okay, well a bunch has happened since the day or 2 days since my last update. First the good news, I got my HIV rapid test and it came back negative. Thought it would take days or months but literally learned in the same visit. I am going to get tested again obviously in the next few months, and for now I'm going to live my life as if I do have it, just to be extra careful. Max's wife, who I'll be calling Sherry from now on, accompanied me for support. Her own appointment is in 2 days. Well, I had the first long sit down with the soon-to-be ex-wife. We had an understandably explosive sit down earlier in the week and we've talked sparsely in between. I left this out, but I've been calling her at my son's bedtime to say goodnight to him. At the moment he is under the impression that I'm just working a lot. Planning on telling him the truth in the following days, or truth good enough for a 6-year-old. Reconciliation was never on the table, she knew this, and didn't try to push it, which I was thankful for. Her reasons shouldn't concern me, they can't benefit me in any way, but giving myself to emotions for the moment I asked her to be truthful and tell me how long it's been going on and why, or if I did something that would push her to this. She looks like she's been crying on and off, but she was fairly calm in talking with me about it, and by how candid she was I can tell it's probably the truth, and she's somewhat relieved to be talking about it in a weird and ducked up way. Long story short, she's the instigator. She didn't say as much, but she's in love with him and they aren't together because obviously. I'm learning now that I'm basically the equivalent of one of those sham wives that gay men would marry so they could seem normal. That's pretty crushing. She insists she loved and loves me, but I don't believe it, nor does it matter anymore. My life for the past 6 years was a lie, probably just a cover for this bullshit. I don't know if I even know what real love, romantic love looks like, and that's got me more than a little ducked up. She looked hurt seeing me hurt, but I don't know if it was real, not that it matters anyway. The important thing we discussed was my stepson and what we will do moving forward. Before I could say anything she told me she wouldn't oppose something like weekend custody and would sign that in the divorce. I honestly think she is extremely remorseful about how this affects him. A lot of telling me I am his father, his only dad, and taking me away from him would be so damaging. We're going to tell him the bad news in a few days. Tomorrow or today, whenever I post this, I'll be taking him to the zoo. I was thinking of telling him after that, but he loves this zoo and I really don't want him thinking of his parents' divorce every time he sees it. It's tearing me up having to think of a way best to scar my child for life. I'm thinking about how to make it positive, like telling him how in my new apartment he'll have a new room and he can paint it how he wants and help me get stuff for it. Make him feel like he and I are a team, like a way to make this terrible sheet fun. We aren't wealthy, so basically we're just going to keep what we have in our already separate accounts, divide up the remainder of our utility bills in a fair way, and just get the divorce. We discussed meeting at the courthouse and having me file divorce right in front of her so she can be served that minute. I want it over as fast as possible, and seeing as she's giving me the only thing I want, refusing the idea of child support. You didn't make him, and you didn't do this to him. As much as I hate her right now, I'm impressed that she seems to at least want to make amends for this. Maybe she just wants weekends off to screw her cousin, but honestly, as long as I get to remain a dad I might as well have one today. In other related news, yesterday, or 2 days ago, whenever I post this, I went to visit Sherry, Max's soon-to-be ex, to see how she's holding up. When I arrived, Max's parents were there and were surprised to see me. I got a hug from my wife's aunt and she was crying and apologizing so much it almost made me cry. She was under the impression that I was never going to see my son again, which really upset her, because, and I didn't know this, but she used to love watching me play with my son at family gatherings. Basically, they are going to continue to allow Sherry and the baby to stay in their second home for as long as they like. Under the circumstances, Max will not be allowed there anymore and is basically disowned at this point. I'm not sure this was mentioned before, but the family seems to have gotten the idea that Max molested my wife and that this is some kind of abuse or Stockholm syndrome, and call me in a hole, but for the sake of my son's stability I will do nothing to correct them. If letting them believe this allows my wife to live at home with her folks and not having them fight over this in front of my boy, then I will omit this. Sherry is a mess, as one would expect. She has moments of being okay followed by tears, followed by anger. The more she talks about subjects not related to this, the calmer she gets. Her family is going to be paying for her to see a therapist, and her brother is coming to the state for a week to be with her, and her mom is basically moving in with her for a month after that to try and help her cope. I got to feed her daughter today, such a cute kid, and melted away my anxiety for a little while. Last night my friends and I went to the movies and I asked her if she'd like to come along. I'm glad she came along, but I've also realized that I either need to put some distance between Sherry and one need to talk with her about what I think is happening. Nothing has been said really, but she's casually touching me, which is something we never did prior to this. I had a tension headache and mentioned a knot in my neck, and unprompted she started rubbing my shoulders. Also unprompted, during my test when the doctor left the room she held my hand. It's probably all just me overthinking things due to my rejection, loneliness, and wanting to feel accepted, but I'm infatuated with her. Whenever I'm not obsessing over all the terrible things going on in my life, I find myself thinking of her in a romantic light, and while it's probably not healthy, feeling anything positive is preferable to feeling nothing but misery and doubt. Again, maybe I'm reading too much into this and I'm mistaking her emotional support as something more than it is because my mind is ducked, but she's acting toward me now, how past girlfriends and even the ex-wife did before I officially started seeing them. I mentioned it in the comments that I was trying to lighten the mood with my dark humor and said something like I can't even go out and get a revenge lay without the possibility of killing someone. Referencing my HIV fears, and her response was to bring up the fact that if I am infected, by default she is most likely infected too, and that since our partners were sleeping together, in a gross way it's like she and I were already having sex. There were a few moments after that and a look which I took to be an invitation, but I changed the subject. I should be thinking about more important things, but I'm getting distracted by this. Part of me, the smarter part, knows that a foundation like this is horrible, and acting on it might spell disaster for our upcoming divorces. On the other hand, I do have a real mental and physical attraction to this woman, one I'm 75% sure is mutual, and I fear that not acting will make her think I'm not open to this at any point and she'll move on and I'll lose another person who makes me happy. But huge digression aside, I still feel like I'm on the verge of a nervous breakdown, but the divorce seems to be going in a favorable for me. I will still be a dad. Oh, and where is Max in all of this? Nobody really knows, but he was couch surfing the first 2 nights with friends out of state. He's called Sherry like 3 times since she went nuclear, but that's it. Been following your journey. I feel for you. As someone that came from a broken home, parents split when I was 7, the breaking up itself didn't impact me at all. Kids are pretty durable. What did though was the relationship with my dad in the years following, or should I say lack of it. What is important is that you keep being an awesome dad despite how you feel towards your ex. I can see that you will already. If you two can remain amicable for them, things should be good. Don't try and overcompensate or let your things slide with him because of some internal guilt you have around you not being with him 24/7. It'll be tough, but it'll work out best for him on the long run. Good luck. Wow. Thank you for the update. In regards to being mutually attracted to the other spouse, I suggest you guys not act on it, but honestly talk about the underlying feelings there. Give yourself and herself time instead of jumping into another relationship though. You both have a lot to sort through: divorce, feelings, etc. Is she going to seek therapy? Are you going to seek therapy? I think that would be beneficial for the both of you as well. I'm happy that you still get to be a dad to the little guy. Again, please seek therapy for yourself and possibly for your little one. At least this will help you find a way to tell your boy about it with ease, despite the bad news. Hey man, I would look into getting something on paper legally stating you are the boy's father. She is civil now, but what about when she meets someone else and they get serious and he wants to adopt the boy as his son? Not sure what that would look like if you are not married, so I would ask your lawyer what your options are to legally make him your son, so if she ever decides to cut you out of his life she can't.